The main example of that, in my opinion, at the moment is the fellow who was sort of vaulted into the lead, they tell me. I don't know, because these polls have been so wrong about who's leading what. But John McCain, who was approached. Apparently, he got real comfortable on a bus trip in New Hampshire with his buddies in the press. And some of the folks there made him feel so much at ease that when he was asked a question about abortion, he was asked what he would say if his 15-year-old daughter or 15 came to him and said that she was pregnant and she was going to have an abortion. And his response, now verified apparently by the transcript, he did try to pretend for a while it was taken out of context. Not a good pretense for this straight-talking senator, but what can I say? His answer was that he would try to counsel her and he would tell her that he thought that this wasn't such a great idea and it was wrong and all this, but at the end of the day, it was her decision, her choice. Now that, as we would all recognize who understand the nature of this debate, is the classic so-called pro-choice position. It is the one rejected in principle and practice by the platform and the majority of people in the Republican Party. But he took that stand, and when he was sort of beat up about it for a little while, he decided it would be a family conference instead of his daughter's decision. I don't know which was more ironic and amusing to me. I mean, after all, if your daughter comes to you, as I pointed out to him in one of the debates, and says, Dad, I want to kill Grandma for the inheritance. I doubt that you would counsel her that this was not really the world's best idea and that personally you opposed the idea of murdering Grandma for the inheritance. But if when it came right down to it, she felt inclined that way, it was her decision. I don't know how your daughter would feel about that way of approaching the issue, but I'm pretty sure how Grandma would feel. And if you then went on when you were caught out a little bit to suggest that, oh, yes, she's a minor child, therefore we'd have a family conference about it, I'm not sure that would be terribly helpful. So you gather the family together, and what are you going to do, take a vote? Shall we vote it up or down that we kill Grandma for the inheritance? The reason that you're laughing, of course, is that the very idea is absurd. You're laughing because you understand that there are certain issues of moral choice where you don't look at people and pretend that they in fact have a choice. You look at them and you say, particularly your children, you just say no. You don't do that. Not allowed. Not done. You step across the line in a way that is totally unacceptable. Now, there are folks, I guess, I call them the pro-abortion folks, who wouldn't agree with that. There is no one truly pro-life, however, who would not agree with what I just said. Because the pro-life principle is clear. That child's life in the womb is not a matter for human choice. Because as a matter of American principle, it is understood that the right to life, along with our other unalienable rights, is based not on human choice, but on the choice of our Creator God. A power beyond our power, a will beyond our will. And you'll excuse me, I guess, if I take that very seriously. I understand that for some people it's just kind of a rhetorical thing. Weren't those nice words that Jefferson penned? Any black American who thinks that is apparently unfamiliar with the history of both oppression and deliverance of black people in America. The oppression done in disregard of that great Declaration principle, and the deliverance coming about when the conscience of the nation was moved to understand that those are not just words, and that they must be applied in such a way that we understand that whether the Constitution is interpreted by some court or the law is passed by some majority in a way that denies to any human being their God-given rights, that is not lawful, that is not right, that is not just, and it should not stand. And if I or anyone else would claim that that had to be the case with respect to black folks who were enslaved, I surely think we must stand today and make the same argument on behalf of the vulnerable, the voiceless, the helpless babes in the womb. It is that kind of understanding of principle, that application, if you like, of the great principles of America's moral heritage that must be the key to approaching this election year, so that Americans understand the moral component of our way of life is not incidental. It is essential. Lose it, and we lose the only common ground for the American identity. We are an enormously diverse people of every race, color, creed, and kind. We have gathered folks here from all the four corners of the globe. We cannot claim a common ethnic stock, a common racial heritage. Even these days, it is unclear that a common language will bind us. But one thing is clear, that we stand on common ground of our moral aspiration, that we stand on common ground of our claim to human rights and dignity, which we have offered to all those people from every corner of the globe. Not because it is our choice, but because it was understood by our founders to be God's will. If we back away now from that moral heritage, we lose the ground both of our moral identity, our common ground as a people, but we also lose the ground of our discipline as a people. For in the end, our confidence that our rights will not be abused comes about, at least in part, because the same authority on the basis of which we claim those rights must be respected in our exercise of those rights. If we lose that sense, then we rightly lose confidence in principle, in the ability of this free people to sustain freedom without terrible and hurtful consequences. For at the end of the day, freedom is a curse if it means the ability to do whatever you please, whatever you like. If it is unbridled greed and lust and passion and interest without check, it is a curse. The blessings of liberty are to be derived from an understanding of freedom constrained and disciplined by the knowledge that the same higher power and authority on the basis of which we claim our rights and dignity must be respected as we use them, in such a way that we respect in others what we claim for ourselves, that we grant to others what we would seek for ourselves, that we do not deny to others what by the grant of that Creator God we may lay claim to for ourselves. This is the great crisis, I believe, of our nation's life today. Not an economic one, not an international one. It is the crisis of heart and spirit, which Lincoln and our founders predicted would be the crisis of our republic's survival. We either get back to the ground of that moral principle on which the republic is based, or we shall lose it all. And that doesn't mean, by the way, that we won't be prosperous and America won't be strong and all this. I keep trying to remind people that some of the most prosperous periods in the history of the world were presided over by some of the worst despotisms in the history of mankind, like the Roman Empire, which strung together several prosperous centuries, in fact, for the part of the world that it dominated, only at the sacrifice of human decency, dignity, and so forth. This is not supposed to be our goal. We Americans are supposed to offer the world an understanding that, yes, incidentally has meant strength and wealth and prosperity, but at its heart is about achieving the better moral destiny of the human race. The knowledge that it is possible, in spite of all our differences, to come together under a constitution of moral principle, to respect the rights and dignity of human beings, and to build a society that, because it is founded on that just foundation, offers hope that mankind, in spite of all our frailties, will yet achieve the better destiny marked out for us by that Creator when first He said, "Let us make man." It is this hopeful future into which we can proceed, but only if we are willing now to turn back to the moral ground that offers us that hope. If we do not, then we shall, as Lincoln feared, meanly lose this last best hope. But if we do, then we can enter the new millennium with the confidence that the same light of hope which has beaten back the shadow of tyranny once, twice, and thrice in this century will still be there to encourage and inspirit the forces of dignity around the world in the millennium to come. Thank you very much.